The glass shattered against the marble floor. Everyone froze. "What did you just say?" His voice came out low, dangerous, controlled, but his eyes were already burning. The maid stood there, hands trembling, soap still clinging to her fingers. I said I'll finish the dishes, sir." Silence. The entire mansion felt like it stopped breathing. At 3 a.m., no one was supposed to be awake, especially not him. Yet there he was, the most feared man in the city, standing barefoot in the hallway, staring at a girl no one ever noticed. He took a step closer, then another. "You're still working?" he asked. She lowered her head quickly. "Yes, sir. I didn't finish earlier." A scoff came from behind him. One of the guards whispered, "She's new, doesn't know when to stop." But he didn't respond. Instead, he walked straight into the kitchen. The girl's heart pounded violently. She could feel it in her throat. No one, absolutely no one, stood this close to him without shaking. Yet she didn't run, didn't step back, didn't beg. That alone caught his attention. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Aiko." He repeated it slowly. "Aiko," like he was tasting it. The others exchanged looks. Something felt wrong. He wasn't supposed to care. Not about a maid. Not about anyone. But he didn't leave. Instead, he leaned against the counter, watching her wash dishes like it was the most important thing in the world. "You're bleeding," he suddenly said. She froze. A thin cut ran across her finger, the water turning faintly pink. "It's nothing," she whispered quickly. "I'll clean it." He didn't move. "Who assigned you this shift?" "No one, sir. I just stayed back." "Why?" She swallowed. Then quietly, "Because if I don't do it perfectly, I'll be replaced." That answer lingered in the air. For the first time, something in his expression shifted. Not anger, not coldness, something deeper. "You think anyone here works perfectly?" he asked. She didn't reply, because the truth was, she wasn't talking about the work. She was talking about survival. He stepped closer, too close. Now she could feel his presence, heavy, overwhelming. "Look at me," he said. She slowly raised her eyes. Big mistake, because once she did, she couldn't look away. His gaze locked onto hers, sharp, searching, almost curious. "You're not afraid of me?" he asked. She hesitated, then whispered, "I am." "Then why aren't you shaking?" Her fingers tightened around the plate. "Because fear doesn't change anything." Silence. A dangerous silence. Behind him, one of the men shifted uncomfortably. "Boss, should we get out?" The command was instant, cold, final. No one argued. Within seconds, the kitchen emptied. Now it was just the two of them, a maid and a mafia boss. He turned back to her slowly. "You're interesting," he said. Her heart dropped. Interesting. That word never ended well in this house. "I'm sorry if I've done something wrong." "You haven't." He cut her off. Then, unexpectedly, he reached for her hand. She flinched, but didn't pull away. He looked at the cut on her finger, then grabbed a clean cloth nearby, wrapping it carefully. His touch was firm, but not harsh. "You shouldn't work while you're hurt," he said. She blinked, confused. No one had ever said that to her before. "I'll be fine," she replied softly. "I didn't ask." That tone again. But this time, it didn't feel like a threat. It felt like concern. And that scared her more. He let go of her hand slowly, but didn't step away. Instead, his eyes dropped to something else. The thin chain around her neck. A cheap one, almost invisible. "You've been here long?" he asked. 3 months. "And no one noticed you?" She forced a small smile. "That's kind of the job." Something in him didn't like that answer. At all. "You shouldn't be invisible," he said quietly. Her breath caught, because for a second, it didn't sound like a boss speaking. It sounded like a man. And that was far more dangerous. Outside the kitchen, whispers had already started. Why is he still inside with her? What did she do? She's dead. But inside, nothing like that was happening. Instead, something far more unexpected was unfolding. He stepped back finally, but his gaze never left her. "Finish up," he said. She nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." He turned to leave, then stopped. Without looking back, he added, "Aiko." Her heart skipped. "Yes. Don't stay invisible." And just like that, he walked out, leaving her standing there, confused, shaken, and completely unaware that this moment would change her life forever. Because the next time he looked at her, it wouldn't be as a maid. It would be as something no one in that house would ever accept. And when that day came, nothing would ever be the same again. The mansion was quiet now, but the air felt heavy, almost alive. Aiko's hands were trembling as she dried the last plate. Her mind replayed every word he had said. "Don't stay invisible." The phrase kept echoing like a warning or a promise. Suddenly, the door creaked open again. It was him, barefoot, his black suit slightly disheveled, hair falling over his eyes. He didn't smile. He rarely smiled. But there was something different tonight, something electric. "You're still here?" he asked. She nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes, I just finished." "Good." His voice was calm, but his gaze pierced through her chest, straight to her heart. For a moment, she thought he was going to leave, but he didn't. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Tell me something, Aiko. Why are you still standing here?" She hesitated. Her hands clenched the cloth. Because I have to." "To survive?" he asked. "Yes." Her voice was almost a whisper. He tilted his head, studying her. There was no judgment, no ridicule, just focus. It unnerved her. "You're brave," he said finally. She froze. Brave? No one had ever said that about her. Not once. Not even her family. "Don't mistake it for strength," she said softly. "I'm just tired of being invisible." His eyes darkened. "Tired of being invisible," he repeated, almost to himself. Then he stepped closer. "You shouldn't be invisible here either. Not to me." The words sent shivers down her spine. She couldn't look away, couldn't even breathe properly. Her mind was screaming, but her lips were frozen. "You work too hard for nothing," he continued. "I don't like it." She almost laughed. A short, bitter sound. "You don't know what it's like to be nothing." He leaned in, close enough that she could feel his breath. "Maybe I do." Her heart pounded in her chest. Fear, confusion, and something else she didn't want to name. A sudden noise from the hallway startled them both. One of the guards peeked in. "Boss, everything's quiet now. Should I go back?" He cut him off sharply. "Don't disturb us." The guard left immediately, leaving the two of them alone again. Aiko took a shaky step back. I should go." "No," he said quietly, almost gently. "Stay." Her pulse raced. This was wrong, dangerous, but she couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't even think. "You're different from the others," he said. "You're not just another face in the crowd." She swallowed hard, trying to maintain composure. "I'm nothing, sir." "Nothing?" His laugh was low, almost a growl. "Nothing? You're already making a difference. Just by existing." The words were so unexpected, so powerful, that it made her eyes water. She blinked quickly, looking down, embarrassed by the sudden surge of emotion. He noticed. Of course, he noticed. He always noticed. "Stop looking down," he commanded. "Look at me." Her gaze lifted, hesitant, meeting his eyes once again. "Good." His voice softened slightly. "Now tell me, why do you stay so late every night?" She took a deep breath. "Because if I don't, I'll get fired. And I can't afford to lose this job." He studied her closely. "And yet you stay despite the pain, despite the exhaustion. Most people would quit after 1 week." "I have no choice," she whispered. "You always have a choice," he said firmly. "You just have to be brave enough to take it." Her stomach twisted. His words were not just encouragement. They were a challenge. She started, then stopped. How could she explain that for the first time? Someone actually noticed her, Someone actually cared about her survival. Someone she was terrified of and yet inexplicably drawn to. He reached out slowly, as if sensing her hesitation. Just a hand hovering near hers. Her heart threatened to burst. Could she touch it? Then he spoke, his voice low, almost intimate. "You're remarkable, Aiko. Do you know that?" She shook her head. "No. I'm just—" "Stop," he interrupted sharply. "Stop saying you're nothing. You're a force whether you realize it or not. And I will make sure everyone sees it too." Her breath caught. His words were bold, dangerous, and thrilling. The air seemed to pulse with tension. Aiko wanted to speak, to argue, to tell him she couldn't. She shouldn't. But the words died in her throat. Instead, all she could do was nod. He smiled slightly, just slightly, enough to make her pulse race. "You'll learn," he said, stepping back. "Everything you think you know about this place will change. Starting tomorrow." She wanted to ask how. She wanted to ask why. But before she could, he turned and left. The hallway seemed colder now, emptier. But inside her, a fire had been lit. A dangerous, uncontrollable fire. And she knew that life in the mansion would never be the same again. Her hands shook, but her resolve strengthened. She would not be invisible. Not anymore. And when the world noticed her, she wanted to be ready. Subscribe, comment, and like if you're hooked, because this is only the beginning of what's about to unfold. The next morning, Aiko woke before dawn. Her body ached, but her mind refused to rest. Every word from last night replayed over and over, looping endlessly in her head. "Don't stay invisible. You're remarkable. You'll learn." Even the memory of his gaze made her stomach twist. Fear, admiration, and something else she couldn't name mingled into a cocktail that left her trembling. She dressed quickly, careful not to make a sound. The mansion was already stirring. Guards moving like shadows, the faint smell of breakfast wafting through the hallways. But it wasn't the routine that made her heart race. It was the knowledge that he might appear at any moment. And if he did, everything would change. "Morning, Aiko," one of the maids said with a small smile. "You've been late a lot this week." Aiko forced herself to smile back. "Just busy. Busy." Yes, busy trying to survive in a house where every glance could be a judgment and every misstep a disaster. But today felt different. She could feel it. Something in the air had shifted, and she wasn't sure if it was dangerous or exciting. By mid-morning, he appeared. No announcement, no guards leading him. Just him, walking through the hall like he owned the air itself. Aiko froze, pretending to adjust a vase. Her fingers brushed the edge, and she held her breath. He stopped. "You're here early," he observed. His voice was low, calculated, almost amused. "Yes, sir," she said, bowing slightly. He didn't move closer. Not yet. He simply observed. A predator studying something unfamiliar. "You work too hard," he said, voice cutting through the quiet. "I have to, sir," she replied softly. He tilted his head. "Do you really? Or do you want to be noticed?" She froze. Her heart skipped. How could he know? I don't know," she whispered. "Ah," he said softly. "Honesty." He stepped closer now. Close enough that she could smell the faint cologne he always wore. "That's good. Honesty is rare here." Her stomach twisted. Fear, awe, and a growing curiosity warred inside her. She wanted to run, but she couldn't. She didn't want to. Behind her, whispers began. Other staff noticing the unusual attention. Eyes narrow, lips curling in envy. "You've caught his attention," one maid muttered, barely hiding her disgust. Aiko ignored her, keeping her focus on the man in front of her. "You're different," he said suddenly, studying her as she polished a silver tray. "Not like the others. You're unpredictable." She swallowed. "I'm not sure if that's a compliment, sir." He smiled faintly. "It is. Unpredictable. Interesting. Alive." Her pulse raced. Alive. She felt it too, the undeniable pull between fear and fascination. "You work too hard," he repeated, his gaze sharper now. "If someone notices you, I want it to be on your terms. Not because you're too afraid to stop. She hesitated. I don't know how to do that. Then I'll teach you, he said firmly. Her breath caught. Teach her? Him? The most feared man in the city, standing here, offering guidance to her? And yet, there was something deeper in his voice. Not control, not power, but interest. The other staff noticed. Jealousy burned through the room. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Why is he always watching her? One whispered. She's just a maid, another hissed. But he ignored them, completely, focused only on her. You're going to learn a lot, he said quietly. And when you do, people will notice. Not just me, everyone. Her heart thundered. What did he mean by that? She barely understood her own feelings. You're not invisible anymore, Aiko, he said, his tone soft but firm. And you'll never be again. The room felt suffocating, charged with tension. She could feel eyes on her, judging, envying, resenting. And yet, she felt alive. Trapped, maybe, but alive. A sudden crash in the hallway startled everyone. A vase toppled, shattering on the floor. She flinched instinctively. He stepped in front of her without thinking, protecting her. My word, he muttered, voice low. Careful, Aiko. Her chest tightened. She had never felt this combination of fear and safety in one person before. I'll be more careful, she said softly. You'd better, he said, a flicker of warning in his eyes. Then, as quickly as he had appeared, he turned and left. But the effect lingered. The room was silent. Staff exchanged worried glances. Aiko's hands shook. She was barely holding herself together. And yet, somewhere deep inside, she felt a strange thrill. Something had shifted. The game had changed. And she knew, without a doubt, that she would never be the same again. Subscribe, comment, and like if you want to see what happens when fear and fascination collide in the mansion.